Hello, my name is Kellen Ness. I'm here at Sullivan Farm with our fourth workshop series, this one on the topic of tillage. And today I'm joined by Paul Bucciaglia. He owns and operates Fort Hill Farm, which produces certified organic vegetables, fruit, flowers, and herbs, and it's right here in New Milford. He's now on his 20th season, and they produce over 40 different crops for a CSA, an on-site farm stand that is open to the public, and 2 farmers markets on land rented from Sunny Valley Preserve, which is a project by the Nature Conservancy. And then I'm also joined here by John Halfinger of Halfinger Farms, and he was born and raised in Higganum, Connecticut, where he and his wife Jennifer own and operate Halfinger Farms. It's a diverse 20-acre farm with pick-your-own daffodils, a third an acre of greenhouses growing spring bedding plants, fall mums, and field crops of pumpkins, gourds, and corn. They're first-generation farmers, and 2022 marks their 27th season. They began no-tilling their pumpkins and corn in an effort to reduce erosion, but are finding many other benefits with their practice. Awesome. So I'll give it to Paul first.
Oh, okay. Well, thanks for having us, having me, and we're having some technical difficulties, so I've got some slides here I'm going to look at just to jog my mind about what I was wanting to say. Let's see, how do I advance that? Is that going? There we go. Beautiful. Okay, great. So I think Kellen introduced us pretty good. I do farm with my wife Rebecca, and we also have 3 full-time farm managers on our farm who are really important part of our operation. We do hire 3 apprentices each year that work with us, and then we've got many other field workers on our farm, and folks that work in our farm stand, and people that meet us at farmers markets. We market our produce on site, and we also go to the New Milford and Westport farmers markets. We rent 38 acres from Sunny Valley Preserve, and we grow generally about 14 acres of vegetables. We have an acre of strawberries. We established an acre of blueberries a couple of years ago that we hope to get fruit from in a couple of years. We have 6 acres that we put into a cover crop fallow each year, and 8 acres that we grow hay and straw on. We've got about a third of an acre in high tunnels that are unheated, and another quarter acre in heated greenhouses. And we also do we grow all our starts on farm, and we also we have a plant sale here in New Milford for folks who are around in the spring in May. Our soils are really sandy. We've got a very sandy loam. It's flat and stone-free, which is really great, but it can be kind of droughty, especially in a year like this. We lost a lot of sleep irrigating. I know our topic was supposed to be on tillage, but rather than just sort of diving into all the ways you can till the soil, I thought I'd talk a little bit about some of the things that we think are important to on sort of a farm agroecology kind of viewpoint. The first one is that diversity is really important. We find that's a really critical piece. So we grow all these crops, we rotate them around, we try and confuse the pests. The other part of that is we always, I would say 90% of our ground, we try to get a annual or winter annual cover crop on the ground when we're done with our cropping season. Again, to increase soil organic matter, keep the ground covered, keep roots in the soil, all really important parts to any healthy soil system. One thing that we found over the years is that is not quite enough to keep soil health, and I'll talk a little bit about later, weed populations under check. So we were able to rent a little more land on the past couple of years, and we've been transitioning that land to certified organic. And it's instead of increasing our cropping base, we've increased our cover cropping base, and now we're able to plant perennial cover crops, which have a lot of advantages I can get to later. We make about 300 yards of compost a year on the farm, and that's a real important part of any farming operation, but especially if you are going to till, There is a drop in organic matter that you create when you till, and replenishing it with compost is really important, both for the soil microbes and on a plant nutrient basis as well. We generally compost with leaves that we get, and also wood chips. I was going to go through some of the ways that we till in the greenhouse, which I thought people might find interesting. Our greenhouse space, we've basically stopped inversion tilling, and we're basically removing let me back up a little. Most of our greenhouse space we grow in soil in the greenhouse. Mm-hmm. We do have one propagation house that we grow on benches, on the trays. So I'm talking about greenhouses full of tomatoes, and right now we're taking out the tomatoes and we're getting ready to plant lettuce and spinach for fall and winter. And for those crops, we're ripping out the old tomato vines and removing them to be composted. And then we use a broad fork to release any compaction that we've created while we're picking and harvesting. Mm-hmm. We spread compost amendments by hand, and we use a small little drill-powered machine to basically incorporate any compost or soil amendments that we're adding to address. One of the things, when you do have a really sandy soil, compost really helps with water retention, and there are other things like green sand or clays like zeolite that help build both water holding potential of sands and also nutrient holding capacity. So we kind of concentrate on those sorts of things. In the field, we have a custom made spray. I really wanted to show you. This is a great photo of one thing I've seen a lot is people spreading compost by hand, and that's a really difficult physical job. And we've mechanized all that. We have a great spreader that rides on we have 5-foot beds, and the spreader rides in those 5-foot wheel tracks, puts a nice layer of compost on the beds, and really allows us to do a nice job there. One of the tillage tools that we use is a power harrow, which we like just to mix compost and amendments into the soil. It's very, it only goes 2-3 inches, non-inversion type of tool, and then leaves us a really fine level seed bed. We grow a lot of greens, and we have a tractor-drawn seeder that goes over these beds, and then we also have mechanized harvesters, so we can create a quality product. An important consideration of all this is both wear and tear on our crew. Harvesting greens hunched over all day is really hard work, and also labor costs are pretty high from a farmer's perspective. So we want to make sure that our people are paid well and what they're doing is effective and cost effective. So having these flat level beds, got a slide of the power here, just mixing in compost and blended fertilizers and other amendments that we put in the ground. We also have a battered old IH 140 tractor that we use to stale seed bed. Oh, that's me hitting my key, telling my phone that I found them. Okay, I'll turn that off. So this 140 has a gang of basket weeders on it, and basket weeders just till just the top half inch of the soil. So what we try and do is we use a technique called stale seed bed. We try and set up the beds, get all the fertility in there, and then we know we're going to get some weeds, so we wait for them to germinate, and then we go in and we till real shallow. We tip up the weed seeds, and then we have a bed that has sort of been the weeds have been pre-expressed and taken care of. We can get 90% of them that way, which really helps cut down our weeding. I think I've been sent here in defense of tillage, and I that's not really my goal. My goal is to describe why we till, and also some of the problems we've discovered with tillage, and some ways that we're trying to address that. We grow cover crops like hairy vetch and winter rye. These are winter annuals that we're seeding now. They're going to grow a nice cover that's going to protect the ground over the winter. In the spring, they'll start growing really early, like even in late March, and we'll get a lot of biomass, nitrogen fixation, food going to soil microbes. It's a great thing. As certified organic growers, we don't have the herbicide tool that conventional growers have at their disposal, and nor do we think it's a good thing for the environment. These are persistent chemicals that end up in groundwater, end up in people, have known effects on human health, and and other organisms in the environment. So this is why we till. If you're gonna plant hairy vetch and rye, there are some new ways that I'll talk about to deal with planting into those crops. But if you're gonna plant carrots on a commercial scale, currently tillage is the answer that we find for taking care of our cover crops. One thing we found with tillage is that you really want to the thing that starts with tillage is finally grinding up your organic matter. So we have this ancient flail that we really love. I'll just talk about it in detail because it's such a valuable tool. The big thing about this flail mower is it has big blades that go counterclockwise, so they kind of suck the cover crop up and turn it into little bits that make the next steps of tillage, the intensity of tillage that we have to do is much less because we've kind of taken care of the residue that we're looking to incorporate into the soil. We do use a rotary spader largely for our tillage. This is a tool that kind of just takes large clumps of soil and flips them over, inverts the cover crop or crop residue into the soil, and it has a power harrow in the back that just finely prepares the top couple inches, and then we're for most crops we're ready to seed. For really fine seeded crops, we'll use that power harrow I mentioned earlier. This is just another shot of our spader. The other tool that we've gone to lately, we used to, and one of the things that we have tried to get away with, and I'll talk about a little bit about later, is what do you do when your crop is done? And we just recently got a no-till drill, which we're really excited about. We had a farm transition grant from the state of Connecticut. We were able to get some no-till drill and also equipment to what was the other? A roller crimper I'm going to talk about, and also some tools to adapt to our current transplanter so that we're starting to trial some no-till. I got some photos of that later. I can sort of describe. We like this reverse tine tiller because it's a real quick thing with a disc harrow, which we used to use to incorporate residues. You end up doing multiple passes. This thing, one pass and done, and has a little screen in the back that allows us to cover residue and then quickly come in and get a cover crop going after our cash crop is done. So I guess, we know tillage has some downsides. The upsides are we can quickly prepare land for planting. In the spring, you're going to get a flush of nutrients when you do this tillage in the short term. That's really good for plants in the spring, crops in the spring. And it also, residues, while great for covering the soil, can cause some delays in the soil warming up. If you're planting something late in the season, like your fall brassicas or your late corn, that's not going to matter. But when you're trying to get those early warm season crops going, that can cause some trouble. So it's nice to get the soils warming up. There are a lot of downsides of tillage. Bare soil leaves the soil exposed to wind and water erosion. Every time you till, you're introducing a lot of oxygen in the soil and oxidizing the organic matter. One thing I've been thinking a lot about lately is you also oxidize some of the soil nutrients in there. Many of the trace minerals need to be available in a reduced form, and when you really oxidize the soil, that's going to be moving the soil ecology into an oxidized state. Weeds are a big problem with almost all farmers are facing weeds, but certainly tillage doesn't help. In the short term, it may seem to, but overall, you're increasing your weed seed bank over time. You lose a lot of soil moisture when you till, and you can cause, especially in a year like this, in July and August, some really high soil temperatures, which are not good for soil organisms, notably fungi. So one of the things that's really caused us to rethink our cropping system 20 years into it is one weed, Gallensoga, which has been a real, it was not present on our farm in the beginning, so I'm completely responsible for we are responsible for all the Gallensoga that's there. One good thing about Gallensoga is it has one weakness. It doesn't last long in the soil system, so that's, again, why we're going to this cover crop fallow period of 2 to 3 years in alfalfa. We've been planting alfalfa and hay grasses to try and drop the population of this weed and other weeds in the soil, and allow the soil to rebuild after a time, after it's been in a tillage situation. Thanks for the water. That was a great idea. That's my Marco Rubio moment. So the other way we've been trying to address some of the downsides of tillage is to increase our use of mulching. We're fortunate to have a bale shredder, and we've been able to buy hay from our neighbors and straw, and also grow some on farm now that we have extra land. And so we've been mulching crops that we haven't previously. One of the crops that we've really been frustrated with is Brussels sprouts. Long time in the ground, very demanding crop in terms of nutrients. Wants even, consistent water. So we're like, okay, let's mulch it. So this year we mulched it with straw, and Kellen can see it. We had a great crop of Brussels sprouts. We're getting really excited to
it was beautiful.
Get into next month. I just had a video of how that worked. One crop that we've mulched for years is garlic, and you don't have to have access to hay and straw. One of the things that's pretty abundant in suburban Connecticut is leaves, and also wood chips. There's some care you have to take with wood chips, but with leaves, they make a great mulching material. And then we also put straw on top of that, because sometimes the leaves will break down a little prematurely. So having that resistant straw is very helpful. Let's see, there it is. And then again, I mentioned this grant that we were able to helped us purchase. Obviously, we put in the farmer match for the roller, and we did some experimenting with rolling down cover crops. We rolled down rye and vetch this year. We found the rye killed quite well. The vetch needed some more encouraging, and I was like, okay, we'll roll it again, and then it just popped back up. I'm like, we'll roll it again. So after the third try, I'm like, let's just cut it. So we flailed it, and I think this is the place where not having a herbicide tool is going to cause us. I don't think this is a deal breaker, but we're going to need to really work on our cover crop mix, and also I think incorporating the mowing on top of the rolling is helpful. There's other folks that will solarize to complete the kill, but I really hate moving sheets of plastic around. We've tried that sort of thing, and I'm not nuts about it. So I was somewhat. Let's see, I was somewhat happy to see that after rolling and then one clip with a flail mower to take the tops off the vetch, we were able to get a pretty good bed to plant in, and I'm sure John's going to talk more about this with his pumpkins and corn. So we're cautiously optimistic that we can do this. This isn't anything new. Rodale Institute has popularized this organic form of no-till for many years. We're a little concerned because we're a market farm and we need to get, we have a spreadsheet that my wife Rebecca works on for a month. And when we want to plant corn on the 15th of May, we got to be able to plant it. And if the cover crop's not dead, that's an economic consideration for us. That's pretty huge. So we're trying to move our way into this. We think we can move many of our late spring crops like corn, winter squash, late season brassicas are our sort of big three areas that we're going to be trying this out. And that's all I got. Thanks for listening.
Wonderful. And now we'll go right over to John and get right into it.
Well, thank you. Thank you for having me here tonight. I'm a little jealous because I feel so bad for you that you have flat, level, sandy loam.
No rocks.
No rocks.
Rocks are the best crop in New England.
And he lives in New England. So we don't have flat, level. We farm in Higganum. There's lots of hills and valleys. Mm-hmm. So we have one parcel that has a brook running through it. So in the springtime, it does tend to come over sometimes in the big rains. And that was, I guess it started off with no-till. No-till is basically, I don't own a plow anymore. I don't rototill. I don't invert soil. I don't want to see my soil until I look for it. And I stole that line. So anyway, so what we do is, what got me into it is this one parcel that has the brook running through it. And when I first bought it years ago, probably started no-tilling probably about 18 years ago. And before that, I was plowing. We were growing strawberries and plowing, making raised beds, and we were starting to lose a lot of soil. So I took basically a third to almost a half of that property completely out of production. So I owned this land and I couldn't farm it. Not because I just couldn't see risking the topsoil. So I heard about this no-till, went out to Pennsylvania, out to one of Steve Groff's field days years ago. And it was really interesting. And in Pennsylvania, they have a similar situation where they got hills and valleys and it's not all flat. So if it was working for him, I figured maybe we can start trying to do some of this. It's taken a lot of years to get to where we are at this point, where we're having success doing it. It's not an easy transition. It takes a certain amount of equipment, knowledge, and so what we do is we start in, well, just yesterday I planted hairy vetch and cereal rye. I planted it through a summer cover crop of cowpeas, sun hemp, sunflowers, and buckwheat. I'm trying to choke out any undesirable weeds, and also trying to produce some of my own nitrogen, and trying to improve drainage, organic matter, everything that comes with lots of biomass in the soil. So we went through with the drill and it just knocked all that down. Those are all annuals. The sun hemp tried to stand up a little bit. It doesn't matter because the first hard frost, it's going down anyway. So we will have in the spring, like Paul was saying, it's like the rye and the vetch. I mean, we've had rye that I'm 6 foot tall and it looks me right in the eye. I mean, we have huge biomass. We have a roller crimper that we bought out in Pennsylvania years ago. And because we're growing corn, our corn crop we grow the corn for corn stalk bundles. We are retail, primarily we're a greenhouse, and we have mums, and we grow pumpkins, and we do corn stalks. We used to grow ornamental corn, but we were starting to have a lot of happy raccoons in the area, and they were just killing me. Yeah, so we just said, Uncle. So the benefit of the corn and the pumpkins is we can plant them late. We don't have to get in like Paul's getting in there, and totally early in the season. You got to get the warm soil. You got to get things going. You got to have a germination temperature. Beginning of June, with the rolled cover crop, we have that temperature. So we can, and I don't even plant my corn beginning of June. So what we do is we plant our cover crop in the fall, late summer, fall, overwinter it. It comes up, it gets a lot of biomass. We roll it down, and I've got a modified 2-row John Deere corn planter, and that I got also out in Pennsylvania. And there's a lot of great shops out there. And so we use that same machine for our pumpkins and our corn. We direct seed right through the mulch, and the pumpkins and corn come up. The pumpkins come up and then they run all over the mulch. And while we're not an organic farm, our goals are to limit the use of anything that it would be considered a toxic material. And some people are concerned about parts per billion on an ear of corn or a tomato, and it's understandable. We're the guys mixing up the concentrate. Okay, so none of us want to do it. So this process of the no-till for us is to limit, and hopefully eliminate a lot of inputs as far as herbicides and even fertility. The reason we grew the cowpeas and the sun hemp and then the hairy vetch for this winter is they're all legumes. They're all going to fix nitrogen. We're breathing, 70% of what we're breathing is nitrogen. It's just these plants, if they're inoculated with the right bacterium, have the ability to take that nitrogen and put it into the soil where the biology can make it usable to the plants, which it's just amazing. And with everything that's going on in the world too, it's like farmers need to make money. This is a business. This is what my wife and I do to support our family. We've got a son in college. We're full time, so whenever we can, you might have to invest a little bit of time and money into a project, but the end result is that farmers need to make a little bit more money, and we can't just simply go up on our price. My insurance guy can, but I can't. I can only charge so much for a pumpkin. So anyway, so the cover crops are a huge part of what we try to do, and it's taken a while. We've had access to a no-till drill the last few years, and it has made just a huge difference. Mm-hmm. You need a consistent, heavy cover crop that when you roll it down, you've got everything is covered. You can't have weak spots where you see dirt over here, but it's nice and thick over here. Well, that dirt over there is going to grow weeds. You're going to have a problem. So the no-till drill over the last 3 years has been huge for us. And the different cover crops that we put in, it's just all trying to be diverse. Like Paul was saying, diversity. We're putting in 4 or 5 way mixes. This next spring we're going to go and probably do a higher diversity in our mixes, and what we're able to do, because we're on a 3-year rotation. So the land that has pumpkins this year won't see pumpkins. It'll have 2 fallow years, and it'll get treated to lime. It'll get treated to whatever amendments, heavy cover cropping, and really trying to build the soil. We actually purchased the property just a few years ago in 2017 that years ago was like a backyard farm. It was a hay lot, and there was a horse pasture, and no one's touched it for at least 30 years. So the condition of the ground, it was all grown up. We had to clear it, do soil tests, do drainage. So by adding lots of organic matter, it's really going to be, it's the only way you can really fix ground. And the whole regenerative movement, and I'm on the tip of the iceberg on that, but it really is about trying to naturally get the biology in your ground going again. And a lot of people consider no-till as using lots of chemicals and lots of inputs, and it can, if that's all you're doing. No-till without cover crops, no-till without compost like Paul's making, just not plowing and doing everything. You're one step, but you're not getting the whole picture. Mm-hmm. So you really need to do more of a regenerative step where you can rebuild the soil. And so what we do is check my notes here real quick. This is not my forte. So evaluating the covers is through soil tests, and through UConn is a great resource for their lab is available to us. and just you can tell when your piece of ground, like our soil tends to be a little clay down in the bottom land where the brook is, and you can see things starting to lighten up a little bit.
How often do you get your soil tested?
Do as I say, not as I do. It's every few years. We should be doing it every year. We're going to be doing the new property this year. We did it a couple of years ago, just to kind of see where we're at. We applied lime. The pH was way off. The first year, our cover crop, our rye got 8 inches tall. I was like, this isn't gonna make us any money here. This isn't working. This year it was up there. So, if you don't do it every year, you need to do it at least every 2-3 years, just to see what you're doing is making a difference, and if you're going in the right direction. And then as far as like the no-till end of it, the benefits for us is I can field prep and I can plant an entire pumpkin crop in a day by myself. It's huge. I mean, I did all my pumpkins. I did probably 6 acres of cover crops this spring, and I did it on less than 20 gallons of diesel. And the inputs, and that's why I said, it's like the benefits beyond, when I started, I thought it was going to be, I'm going to be able to farm this land that I couldn't because it was potential flooding. I'll risk the crop, but I won't risk the land. So if it floods out, if I lose the crop, at least my land is still, my topsoil is secure. But what we're finding though is that you don't need all the steel. You don't need a 100 horsepower tractor. You don't need to have. I mean, we had a 2-bottom plow, just had a little Kubota tractor starting off, and we had a disc harrow that actually came with the land that I bought from the farmer next door, and I still have it, and it's kind of on our antique display at the daffodil farm, but it would take me forever to plow, to disc. If it would rain, you can't drag a disc, now you're out there in wet. So this way here, we're able to roll the cover with one tractor, the planter's on the other one, jump on the planter, and just plant. So you roll in the morning, you plant in the afternoon, and you're done. And it's really, savings on fuel, savings on the wear and tear. I mean, to replace a tractor, a 40 horsepower tractor, they start at like $35,000. Mm-hmm. I want mine to last, and the inputs by using the cover crops, I mentioned we're growing a lot of our own nutrients. I'm hoping that within a few years, my fertilizer cost is going to be less. If I can produce, say, 100 pounds of nitrogen a year, even if only a third of that is available to my crop, the rest of it's still going to be somewhere in the soil. So the concept is the next year, if you have another 30%, you're going to add us. Now you're almost taking like 50% of your cost for fertilizer. Fertilizer used to be $600 a ton. It was $1,200 a ton this year. And with Russia, Ukraine, a lot of our fertilizer comes from that part of the world. Who knows where it's going to be in the spring? So, and that brings you back to farms have to make money in order to survive. We're a business, and like any other business, you have to be able to, at the end of the year, sit back, pay your bills, and be able to live
and do it again next year.
And do it again next year. Yeah. So it's been really interesting, and you know, just the savings in diesel and fuel, time, wear and tear, you know, and the concept with what Rodale's trying to do is trying to do organic no-till, and that is the direction I'm trying to get. It's just taken a long time, and you know, the fact that we're able to use a drill now, which bravo for you. That was nice purchase, the no-till drill.
Yeah, it's a game changer.
Exactly, it's a game changer to have that good solid stand of cover. I suspect that we're going to be, you know, reducing here and there and everywhere, but over the next 5-10 years, you know, it could be organic pumpkins and organic, you know, corn and yeah. The daffodils pretty much are. They're pretty cool. That was my wife's idea, and you know, we were on that new property, and she just looked at me and said, you know, this would make a great pick your own daffodil farm. And it's just
nice.
Like, what? And it was like, you know what? You're right.
Always listen to your wife.
You're right. Absolutely. That's you know, the best ideas coming from that direction. So it was, it's been amazing. But yeah, you know, I encourage people to try some, and to try, even if you're still, you know, tilling and certain crops. I don't know how you get out of tilling. You know, I don't know how you grow radishes without tilling, and you know, beets, and you know, I'm not sure how you would do that. But on certain things, you know, your late season sweet corn, you know, your late season, you know, like pumpkins, winter squash, things like that. It's totally, you know, just try it. And you know, I know we all like to plow. We like our equipment. We all like to, you know, get on the tractor and do our thing. But you know, in the end, you know, you find something else to do. Mm-hmm. So, and I think that pretty much, you know, other than, you know, for this year, this was important, retaining the moisture.
Yeah.
Having a mulched field is huge. Mm. Is to have that 2-inch layer of straw that you grew in place. So you didn't have to cut it, bale it, shred it. You grew it in place, and you just rolled it down and planted through it. It makes a world of difference. We used to irrigate when we had strawberries, and I haven't irrigated in years. You know, I still have all this stuff. We are probably going to go more towards a drip system rather than the sprinklers that we had. But you know, and after this year, even with the mulch, could have used a little bit more water. And
this year was something else.
You know, and chances are, you know, I don't want to jinx this, but you know, we'll probably have a wet season next year. You know?
Right. It'll probably be too wet.
So right, exactly. So you know, it can go either way, but to be prepared. But yeah, I encourage people to try it. You know, try doing it. You know, it's not an easy transition, but I think once you start seeing the benefits, and you know, it's worked for us, and I have no intention of going
It just
back.
takes that period to switch over, is what you're saying?
Yeah, you know, we're first generation, and we started from scratch on a shoestring, so we were not able to go out and buy a set of equipment to say, okay, we're going no-till, we're going to buy a roller crimper, we're going to buy a corn planter, we're going to buy a drill. Like I said, doing this 18 years, just the last few years I've had access to a drill. Mm-hmm. You know, I mean, I'm spinning it out there, and it's like, you know, you spin out 200-300 pounds of rye, and you know, 100 pounds grows. You know, I mean, it's a crapshoot. You don't know what is going to happen if you put that seed in the ground. Like Paul said, it's a game changer. You know, I feel confident that what I planted yesterday is going to be a good solid stand for next year. And but you know, if you have the checkbook,
or it's slowly transitioning.
I would say, you know, get get the whole package and just go for it. You know?
I wish we could all just say that about everything.
Well, you can buy the whole package for less than a new 50 horsepower tractor. You know, but,
what do you think's the secret to killing vetch? We waited till full bloom, and I still was having trouble rolling it. I was curious what am I missing?
Vetch is tough. Do you fill your tank with water?
I called I&J and I'm like, it's not dying. They're like, did you fill it? I'm like, all right, I fill it. And I still couldn't get it to roll, but I'd already rolled it once. If I'd had the water in there the first time, would I have gotten a better shot?
Potentially. I think bloom time is critical. You know,
do you need to be seeing like pods
later
on it? Or how far are we going? Because like they were all, it was full.
What time of the month in June was it? Because I would say like by mid-June it should be down.
It was probably the first week of June, I would say.
Yeah.
We were doing it.
Yeah. So it might, you know, I like your idea though, is like, you know, you have to get your crop planted at a certain time. So you can't wait another 2 weeks.
No.
You know,
yeah,
so
that's the problem.
You know, the flail mower is a great tool. And you know,
it did seem to kill it. I was really surprised. I was like, this isn't going to work. And you could see the vetch stems had bent back up, and I just knocked them off. And I gave up. They gave up the ghost. So I was encouraged by that. But I had waited. I had been rolling and waiting and rolling and waiting. And I'm like, let's flail it. So.
Even with the rye, you run into the same thing. When I first started rolling, it was like, wow, this is great. I went out there and rolled. I look behind me, and it's just like, it's like, really?
And you have yours in the back.
I have mine in the back. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, and that's just you know, they've got a bracket now. I guess you can put on the front loader, which is nice.
I don't know if it mattered, but I don't know if we got enough down pressure with the bucket.
You might be able to put more down pressure, fill that thing with water and down pressure.
Okay.
But if it doesn't, you know, the other thing too is like, you know, there might be something else that crimps better. You know, like a Austrian pea or something like that, or something, some other legume that would do the trick. I'm
really excited to try sunhemp, because I think I've just kicked that over and watched it die, and then like you're saying, then it frees anyways. But then you have that nice mat to go into early in the spring, and that's one other window I'm seeing where if we had either a cold tolerant crop or one where we could clear mulch away and then plant.
If you had like row cleaners on something that you were gonna,
or people with rakes on a small scale, but once we get going,
or that too.
The row cleaners I priced that out, and I was
their mechanical transplanter makes a no-till transplanter, and they're made in America out of Michigan, Wisconsin, I forget, but they've got a nice unit that they put together and put a row cleaner right on the front. But if you have, it sounds like you've got help.
No, we don't want people raking. No, we'd like to mechanize it, but I think for our first tries, I was just knocking it down, and I just went out and scratched a hole and planted it. I just wanted to see how things would grow, and it was mixed. And so we've got some more before I start worrying about mechanizing the planting. We need to work on the growing. Some of the crops did okay, and some were like, compared to the where we tilled, they didn't do as well. So I've got some figuring to do there.
Well, now that you've got more room too, you might be able to instead of putting the vetch in, just do the cereal rye,
straight rye,
and then concentrate your legumes on your fallow year, so that when in the spring, all you have to worry about is getting that rye, or something that maybe winter kills, so that it'll be dead amongst your rye.
The trick we had there is I've sort of been watching. We grow a lot of oats and peas as a cover crop in the fall, and there's sort of a window where if you plant early enough, the oats and peas grow up, and they really do a good job of shading out any germinating chickweed. And if you wait past like August 25th, that seems like August 25th to about September 15th, when we plant oats and peas, we'll get a lot of chickweed growing up, which we don't have a way of dealing with the next year other than either hoeing or tilling, and that's the tricky part.
And it goes to seed, like as soon as you see it, it's already gone to seed.
Done. That and Gallensoga, same problem.
From what I understand, though, it's like with the thatch that's created with the no-till system, is that some of your like pigweed, they won't germinate.
Right.
So, there are certain, and I guess pigweed in some parts of the country, they say it's becoming resistant to glyphosate or whatever. And that's a real issue. And that's what I see with too much of one thing. I wasn't brought up a farmer, so, I depended on people like Jude at UConn and to diversify. It's like, don't just keep hitting it with this and this and this, and that's what we're trying to do, is diversify with more natural, a big thick, mat of something on the ground. The light's not going to get down there, and my corn and my pumpkin seeds are huge compared to a pigweed seed or mare's tail seed or anything like that. So it's really, we're hopeful. We're farmers. We're always hopeful.
Right.
Yeah. But,
Wonderful. Do we have any questions from the live stream? No? Perfect. Well, thank you guys so much for coming. This was absolutely wonderful to hear kind of both sides of it, see how you do both aspects and how you're completely no-till. Thank you guys so much for listening, and we hope you enjoy. Next week, we'll have our 2 weeks from now, October 1st, we'll have our 5th workshop. Thank you guys.